Okay, we are back in open session. And I will entertain a motion to approve this resolution. Motion by Mr. Neal, second by Mr. Nutting. Mr. Peckham.
Thank you. Considering we didn't really get into this in executive session, but during that time, it occurred to me that number 8, I would propose that we would amend that simply by changing the first 2 sentence-like objects around so that it, instead of reading as it does, we would say, if said project proposal is reviewed and approved by the Planning Commission, Economic Development Committee, and Common Council by December 31, 2019, the city shall reserve land south of the proposed Fulton Street for a Phase 2 project, period. Just switch them. And I think that takes care of the,
Well, it's the plan for
clarity.
Phase 2 that we're looking for, though.
shall reserve land south of the
For Phase
proposed
2,
Fulton
if
Street
said
for a
project
Phase
proposal.
2. Yes, so if the project proposal is reviewed and approved by the Planning Commission by December 31, 2019,
No.
city shall reserve the land south of the proposed Fulton Street for a Phase 2 project.
I think it's right the way it is, though. It says, we
It
will
is
reserve
correct.
the
We will
land for a
reserve the
Phase
land.
2 if a Phase 2 comes forward by 12/31 of 19.
Correct.
The holding of the land isn't contingent upon the Phase 1. They have to bring a plan for the Phase 2. And so I think the way he has it was right.
Was correct.
It needs a change because the second sentence doesn't do anything. So we either have to just remove that period and make that a lowercase if and
We'll
say
make that into a comma.
Let's do that.
south of
All
proposed
right.
Fulton Street for a Phase 2 project, if said project, blah, blah, blah. That would also work. So I would, the
Okay.
friendly suggestion from afar is accepted, and I would make that my amendment.
Okay, just for clarification, Pat, you're looking to do the comma after Phase 2 project?
I don't think it needs a comma, but if you want one, just get rid of the period and make it one long sentence.
Okay,
Okay.
and the if is a small f? Is that
Yes,
what you're-
please.
Okay. We do have an amendment on the floor from Mr. Peckham. Is
There's a second
there a second?
by Mr. Martins.
If I just approve the amendment as part of my motion, or do we have to vote on it?
We have to vote on the
Vote on
amendment,
amendment.
because if anybody doesn't want to, okay. So, Mr. Smith, you have your light on. Did you want to address the amendment that was proposed by Mr. Peckham?
No, I want to address after that, so.
Okay. Okay, okay. So we have a motion before us. Mr. Peckham had asked that the first sentence in item number 8 is one continual sentence all the way through December 31st, 2019. Does everyone understand the amendment we're voting on?
And we have a second on that?
Yep,
Second,
and
right.
a motion by Mr. Peckham and a second by Mr. Martins. And you may begin voting. That motion has passed 9-0. Just go back in order then on the original item.
Mr.
Mr.
Smith?
Smith, you had your light on.
Thank you. So basically, by approving this resolution, the term sheet, we are technically approving the developers agreement that we haven't seen yet. Is that correct?
Yes, because part of the resolution states, oh, now can I find page 2? Do you have it in front of you? Well, the paper, it says, the proper city officials are authorized and directed to execute development agreements and transfer real estate in substantial conformance with the existing plans, previous development agreements, and the term sheet herein, not to exceed the 274.
Okay, but we really don't have a previous development agreement with these people, do we? We had it with Gorman, but Gorman isn't going on down the road.
Well, we didn't even have one with Gorman. We executed one with Frantz and then with Barker.
We've had so many,
I think those are the two that
It's
are being
continued.
referenced.
okay. Well, we all know how those turned out. Like I said, I'm uncomfortable, maybe I'm just a nitpicker, or worse, I've been called worse. Approving, voting for this unless I want to see the full agreement. That's where the loan terms in and guarantees are in. There's nothing in this term sheet that says that they will obtain one. I assume that we will require them to obtain one before we sign the developers agreement, but who knows at this point? So I still have my concerns about this. Thank you.
Mrs. Rasmussen?
Thank you. Part of our discussion was that for the development agreement to become complete, we have to at least approve the term
Term
sheet
sheet.
because the development agreement is constructed in conformance with those provisions. And so with our approval tonight of the term sheet, that development agreement, which is a legal contract, could be constructed. And if there's any deviation from the term sheet where the terms would be altered, any of those changes or deviations would have to come back to us for approval. So there is some safety in the fact that if we want what we see on the term sheet, anything beyond that or short of it would have to come back here. But no development agreement gets finished if we don't at least approve the terminology. So that's where we're at tonight. I think that was where we left off in the
Correct.
executive session.
All right, we do have a motion by Neal, second by Nutting, and that is to vote on the River Life resolution that's before you that was amended on council floor. You may begin voting. That motion has passed 8-1, no abstentions, and 2 people not voting, just for clarification.
Okay. All right, then. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
If there's
Motion.
any public comment.
I will ask that, so if anybody would like to come forward for public comment, now is your time for anything on tonight's agenda or anything else going on in the city. Again, would anybody like to come forward and speak on a matter? And one more time, would anybody like to come forward and speak on an item? The public comment is closed. Now I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion by Mr. Nutting, second by Mr. Neal.
Begin voting, please. Motion passed unanimously.
Thank you, everybody.